Hey everybody, let me fix my lighting. I can't believe this. Start the new thing off. All right, that's a lot better. So we finished up the round on lights, and now we're doing a scene round. With most of these rounds, we do like sort of a maintenance phase, a maintenance updates, and then sort of a standards update, and then a new feature. That order has changed up a little bit. It used to be that I would do the new feature because that's like the most fun thing to do, and then I would do the extend this, do like the maintenance sort of thing, which in this case is going to be to create a service for scenes, and then um, and then do like a maintenance update thing, which typically was some kind of just general change of things. And in this case, I've added a new attribute called the Showtime ID that I want everything to have, just because I've come to the conclusion at this stage of my career and technical growth that it's a bad idea to use IDs that other APIs are creating. You should probably just use your own. I think historically, as a front end developer, I've always naturally used our own. It's just that since I don't have a back end on this, there's no database. And since there's no database, I don't have my own IDs. Um, I think at some point we probably will have a database, and I don't know, maybe we'll have IDs or not. Actually, I don't know if I'll ever go to the database level. I might just go to like a JSON on the back end. Um, just so you know, like the way my hosting works, I use this organization called DreamHost that I've been using since the 1990s. They've been great, um, and I use like their original hosting, which in '96 they didn't have PHP, but eventually they did move to PHP and MySQL. So that's the stack that I generally use on my personal things. I've only used MySQL PHP stack once professionally, and that was for this organization called the Intersect Group. And no, that wasn't. It was called Rethink. The Intersect Group was the company that was the um, organization that like did my payroll, and I was a contractor through them, and then Rethink was the company that did the technology, and they were like technology arm of another organization called Orange, which was like we built like Sunday school materials and things like that. And so anyways, there we had that stack, but every place else I've had all kinds of different stacks. Anything from like Java, Oracle to um, ASP, um, SQL, Microsoft SQL. Trying to think of anything else. I'm sure there's been other stacks that I've found myself in, but mostly Java. But the last couple stacks have been, well, the last few stacks were from my perspective Node. They were Node and Mongo, and then but then there was also a C sharp back end area that we didn't do anything from. Basically, there was a Mongo middle area that the UI fully interacted with. This saved stuff to and read stuff from, and then there was like another layer that did all of the reading from Mongo and putting it into SQL. Um, so that was that stack. I actually worked on one stack, which was really neat because our application only ran on the actual machine. So it had a Mongo S node um, Angular, but the most of the actual processing happened in Node because for just regular processing, it's actually faster in Node. And since it was all on the same machine, there was no latency. It wasn't like it was trying to push out to a server. And then the machine itself, from time to time, they would push a button to sync it up with that. So basically, it was used by people who would take the whole machine out, use it to do stuff that is very like it would. I don't know exactly what about it I'm allowed to talk about. There were aspects of it that were like I don't think it was like secret, but it was like like confidential kind of stuff on there. And I'm not no, but basically they would take the machine, the whole machine, use it, and then come back, and then it would like sync up with like the mothership, and then yeah, and it was really cool. But most of our processing actually happened on that. But anyways, so I'm gonna start working on the scene round, and basically the first thing is to move anything out of the three service. I'm thinking the three service is probably eventually get renamed to like manager service, because I think it does manage, and it will probably, whenever I can get a other, like I would like to get a music API in here, and it will probably interact with the music API, and I would like to get a physics engine in here, and it will probably interact, so it won't be specific to three. And then I would like to move like all of these, the mesh, light, camera, animation service, into like a three directory. And then right now this recyclable sequence has nothing to do with ThreeJS, so it's in a utils directory. I think that would be better, but that's kind of down the road. Um, so for now, what I need to do is create a new service called scene service.spec. And I bet you in the physics directory, there'll be like, um, there could very well be a light, and there could be a mesh, and there could be a scene and things like that. And so it is actually important that I start to, as this application grow, I actually kind of divide out those pieces. Um, it shouldn't be that hard to do when I have to do it. But anyway, so the way I do is I go into my packages folder, and I always have an example for this specific project. In some projects, I just keep all of my scripts. For this specific project, since there would be literally hundreds of these things, and this whole package.json would get a bit unwieldy, I just keep one example. So I want to create a services, and I want it to be named. And I've noticed that adding this word service is not a good idea, because it ends up putting another service in the name. So then it ends up being the name service.service. And let me look at the other ones. Let's see if I did it that way. So if I look at mesh service, is it called mesh service dot service? Okay, so that's called mesh service. So I probably want it to be, I don't know if it adds that though, but we have a nice clean branch, so I guess I can check that. Control pick package.json. It's going to my services, and I want it to be called scene. And what I'm hoping, I can't remember, is I'm hoping that it'll add the word service. If it doesn't, then I'm just going to delete it all and do it again. And this is a S service. And Control A, and then get status. Okay, then I'm going to say npm run, and then the name of this script that's in my package.json. And what it'll do is it'll execute these commands for the and it'll do that in the context of this application. So it'll definitely use all the right stuff. CS service. And what I want is for it to show up as a sibling to my other services, and that it have the name service. Okay, yeah, so scene service. Yeah, this is exactly what I want. It seemed like when I was adding the word service, and then it would be like scene service, and I don't want that, because that's just silly. So now I have my scene service. I know I'm going to want to use it. The whole general idea, and this is why this thing's probably going to get renamed to manager, is that I don't want any of these other services talking to each other. I only want them going through this ThreeJS service. But I believe, like I said, I think I've outgrown this ThreeJS service name. I think this needs just to be manager, and then I need to create a Three.js folder, and I need to move all these into that folder, which used to be something that was very, very difficult to do, and is something very that's I think particularly difficult in a JavaScript environment, but it's fairly simple in a TypeScript environment. I was giving kind of Angular the credit for all that, like, oh, in Angular is so easy, but I think it's more TypeScript. TypeScript makes it easier to say for it to just automatically find out everywhere where things are broken because you done some refactoring. But anyways, I do know that I want to use my Three.js service, and I do know that I want to use it. I want to inject it this way so that it's a name. So there's a couple of things going on here. A couple weeks back, I think in my other project, I instead of using the inject function to get my service in, I actually just implemented. I just created uh, a new instance of the service. That ended up being a problem because in general you want your services to be a singleton so that if anything that uses it, it's all the same. I mean, that's a general rule. In this specific situation, I don't really care. It's okay if the if this manager service, this Three.js service, use it because it's the only thing that should use it. But if I were to like, let's say when I create my importer, let's say I decide to go and I need to set it up a different way where the importer uses these things, which that is not what I want to do. But let's say I did that, I would want them to share the same service. Um, I'd want them to share the same, like if we look in light services, the light, I would want them to share these variables. If I use the keyword new to do that, I would not. It would They would create their own, and then they'd all have their own version of this. But if you use this inject uh, this inject function to do that, then what happens is it will manage that, and it manages it. It's not necessarily going to be shared. It just depends. There's like a root tree that you kind of have to study to understand. Now, I'm doing everything as standalones. If we were using modules, it's a little bit easier to understand. What, like, let's say you have a module and you have all your stuff, and then you have another module down here and you have all your stuff. If you if you do a new module with the new item in the lower module, then you'll create a different version. So the injector service, the injection whatever code that figures out what injector to use uses the one that's closest to where it's called. It's a little, I think it's maybe a little harder to understand in the standalone context, but since like uh, if I were to create a component and use a service, and then I created another component um, and create and redeclared that service and all that and reused it, I just actually don't even know. That is very interesting thoughts. But anyways, that's not what I'm working on, so I'm not going to worry about it at this moment. But this is going to be our scene service, and I'm going to call it. And I'm going to tell the TypeScript transpiler that this is a scene service, and it's like, I don't even know what a scene service is, bro. Why don't you check yourself? But if I do this and then I do this and I slide this guy over, I get a blue one. So sometimes you don't get a blue one, and if you click this, it'll offer to delete it. Oh, actually, it offered to import everything because a lot of times there's more than one, but this is the only one I have. So I'm just going to say import it, and then just see that it brought it in from where I expected it to bring it in, and save it. And then probably at this point it's a good idea just to kind of take a quick look. Okay, that's the only thing I packaged. That makes sense. This is a brand new unit test, and then this is my scene service, which has nothing in it. It's just an empty shell. This appears to be bringing it in from the new scene service, and then this is my new scene service that I'm not using, and it's complaining about that. So tomorrow we'll move this scene item, scenes, anything that seems specific, start moving that over into the scene service. I do not think there's a whole lot um, in like yeah, update scenes is going to be a little tricky. So we definitely want this in that. We definitely want this. We want the. Oh no, we want to leave this here because this is communication scheme. This is a pub sub for signals, and then the setup scene probably is local because I do think that this is part of the manager behavior. It's just setting up the using the different pieces, but we'll have to go to take a look at that, see if there's anything in there that we want to do from the scene manager, our scene service, and then all of this stuff is local to this. So, anyways, like you notice that we have our setup camera is over here because this is all using different. It's all just m- part of like managing the camera, not part of. It doesn't have any camera specific functionality. So that's that. Not too exciting, but hopefully it's not too long. 16 minutes, it's not great. But anyways, happy coding, everybody. Bye.